Is fast fashion pivoting to become rented, with H&M leading the way? Will the lack of physical higher education classes lead to a great recalibration? Are marketers finally getting back to what counts around context instead of simply content? We'll discuss those topics and more on the audio show at the intersection of marketing, media, tech, and popular culture. We call it Disruptive FM. Roll the title.
It's Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Welcome to Disruptive FM, where business and culture collide. Sponsored by Microsoft and Branding Strategy Insider. With your host, Jeffrey Colon.
Okay, here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Disruptive FM, number 66. I'm Jeffrey Colon, head of brand studio for Microsoft Advertising, coming to you from quarantine in the Emerald City of Seattle. Straight ahead, 3 fresh trending topics for you to consider, and we'll be joined by special guest Mathew Sweezey. He's author of the book, The Context Marketing Revolution. Mathew will talk about cream, how context rules everything around me. So let's jump in.
Here are this week's trending topics. Rent a wardrobe.
We're wearing pollution on our bodies. Every time we don a new pair of jeans, or a t-shirt, or that fabulous new pair of Air Jordans. And this is one big reason environmental proponents for the past few years have had their sights aimed at the fast fashion retailers of the world. Many of these activists have been pressuring apparel retailers to rethink how they design and to cut down on the amount of manufacturing that adds to environmental catastrophe. Enter the global pandemic we now are under, with less demand for clothes and especially fast fashion, and you have a movement toward new business models. And one of the companies leading this shift is the Swedish behemoth H&M. After the fossil fuel industry, fashion is the biggest polluter on the planet. It produces more than 92 million tons of waste and consumes 1.5 trillion tons of water per year, with developing countries often bearing the burden. Slow fashion is the future, and while the world is on pause right now, this might be a good time to rethink the model when the play button is pressed again. To underscore this, a quick look at the booming second-hand apparel market will tell you a lot. In 2018, the used clothing market in the U.S. was worth $24 billion compared to the $35 billion fast fashion industry. And by 2028, recycled clothing, thrift stores, and second-hand boutiques is projected to skyrocket to $64 billion, while fast fashion lags at $44 billion. Used clothing is not only easier on the wallet, it's easier on the planet. And the fast fashion giants are starting to take notice. Consumers have a key role to play in this. They must either alter their consumption habits and take a hit to the hip pocket by paying higher prices for ethical and sustainable products, or buy into a subscription model where they can rent clothes and return them. Now, granted, this may not happen until physical retail is back up and running, but imagine this for 1 second. You need a cool new pair of threads. You go to H&M and rent those threads instead of buying them, and then return them when they're due or ship them back. Instead of having to produce 1 million pairs of something, the retailer would produce maybe 10,000, limiting its carbon footprint while at the same time providing trendy new fashion to consumers. Maybe this won't work, but there's no time like now to test the future. As David Bowie sang, "There's a brand new dance, but I don't know its name."
Trending topics on DFM. Lower education.
As we know, higher education comes at a cost. Last year, if you attended Yale University, you had to shell out $40,000. At the end of a 4-year degree, you could have bought a small house in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. But what happens now that every student of higher education is going to have to tune in via Zoom to get a great education? Over the past 20 years, universities put a lot of emphasis on the extracurriculars. And this led to well-tended campus lawns, extravagant salad bars, top-notch technology, and of course, what matters most, networks with alumni and a physical student body. But now, does any of that matter when you have zero access to it? In fact, many universities have already declared they have no plans to open campus until January 2021. But of course, they are asking for physical tuition rates. So what's in store for higher education? Well, we here at DFM compiled a list of the possible disruptions to the system. Here are 9 possible scenarios. 1. Schools consolidate. Some are already out of money and may need to work with other nearby universities or colleges to survive. 2. No more sports unless they pay for the programs themselves. A lot of sports are in the red, and only those that operate with profit and encompass Title IX, which mandates equal access to sports for females, may survive. 3. The end of amenities. All-you-can-eat buffets, gone. Rock climbing walls in the university center, torn down. Luxurious dorms, just be happy to have a bed. 4. Cuts to administrative overhead. What if you could pay the instructor directly instead of triple the costs, including the administrator fees? A sort of direct-to-student education system. Admin cost cuts should be a welcome austerity move. 5. Fewer majors and specialization. Some schools may only offer 5 majors or specialties and seek to attract the best who want to study those disciplines. 6. A permanent shift toward online education. 7. More local student bodies. 8. Canceled student loans. This could be the big attraction for serious students and could be paid for by many universities that have endowments in the tens of billions. 9. And maybe most essentially, the reassessment of a college degree. Look, we like the value of a 4-year college education. It helps you critically think and exposes you to various fields of study. But it's not for everyone, nor should it be. When IT personnel are needed more than ever, and essential workers are in the fields of health and services, which require specialized degrees, well, maybe 4 years of higher education isn't the future. Especially for a $160,000 Zoom University degree.
Trending topics on DFM. The context marketing revolution.
Context matters just as much as content. This has been preached for the past decade. And yet so many businesses are still getting it wrong. Misunderstanding the sentiment of people. Misreading the room. And that brings us to our special guest, Mathew Sweezey. He's a marketing futurist, director of marketing strategy for Salesforce, and the author of the great new book, The Context Marketing Revolution: How to Motivate Buyers in the Age of Infinite Media. We're in the midst of a massive media revolution. For the first time in history, ordinary people around the world have the ability to create, distribute, and consume content instantly from anywhere, using connected devices. As a result, the massive increase in media noise creates an entirely new environment that challenges conventional marketing models. And yet countless companies and marketing organizations continue to rely on these traditional models, assuming that their campaigns will sway customers. But those companies may be missing the point and spending a lot of money in the process. Mathew joined us on Microsoft Teams earlier this week to break this down for us. Let's take a listen.
What is context marketing? Because, we've heard the word context. Context has been around for a long time. The way I define it, and the way I define it in my book, is being able to help somebody with the goal at the moment. And that's how we break through, right? We then parlay that trust and realize that decisions are made along a journey because they can be, and all questions can now be asked and instantaneously answered. So now we then have to guide them to the next steps, right? So it's a 2-part dance, right? We break through by helping somebody accomplish a goal at a moment, and then we parlay that trust to then move them forward down the journey. So that's kind of the overarching, right? So that's what is it? Why is it so critical today? Well, it's critical today because there is no way you can have a conversation with anybody if it's not in context of the current point in time. The only way we can break through right now is by helping people solve real goals and real problems, right? That's it, right? So you can't go ahead and say, hey, listen, buy these shoes. Yes, some people are still buying shoes, but we have to make sure that we are communicating in the context of the point in time. And then thinking about this moving forward, what we really have to understand is that before this scenario even happened, the consumers were already radically changed. And that's a lot of the research that I was able to do. And I called them the post-AI consumer, meaning essentially that the consumer's daily life has been completely curated for them by artificial intelligence. And for us to realize that now we must then match the same level of experience at every touch point. We must be instantaneous, fast, personal, authentic, human. That's really what we have to think about moving forward. So that's kind of why is it so critical today, is because there's no way to break through without it. Why is it going to be so critical tomorrow is because the world was already moving in this direction. This just really got us there a whole lot faster.
Mathew Sweezey, author of the excellent new book, The Context Marketing Revolution. I was very happy to contribute a blurb for the back cover of the book, and I'm quoting it now. Quote, if you're looking for a book with conversion rate charts, lead funnels, and ROI tables, this isn't it. Sweezey gets back to what we should have been focusing on all along. Human behavior, why consumers make the decisions they do, and why context matters more than ever. Unquote.
You're listening to Disruptive FM with Jeffrey Cologne.
Now, here comes the music. Here comes the music. Here comes the music. Here comes the music.
Hey, it's Disruptive FM, the culture of business. I'm Jeffrey Cologne. Thank you for being here. How are you holding up? Please reach out to us on social media. The Twitter and Instagram handle is @DisruptiveFM. And connect with me personally on Twitter and Instagram @DJGEOFFE. Send us a direct message and let us know how you're doing, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to, and most importantly, recipes. A huge thanks to our sponsor partners for their support. Microsoft Advertising, Intelligent Connections, reminding you, when you broaden your view on trust, you build loyalty and create business value. Especially in these challenging times, a trusted relationship for the long term is paved with empathy, genuine service, and knowing your brand's purpose in the interconnected world. That's marketing with purpose. Learn more at aka.ms/marketingwithpurpose. And Branding Strategy Insider, serving over 50,000 senior level marketers, chief marketing officers, and business decision makers every day. It's distributed by partners such as the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Google News, and Forbes. Branding Strategy Insider, the leading resource for thought leadership, brand strategy, and brand management. They need to be on your radar. Check them out at brandingstrategyinsider.com. Thanks to Iographer. Iographer makes accessories that turn your smartphones into storytelling machines. Everything you need to make your mobile videos look like the pros. All their products are easy to use and budget friendly. With everyone needing to create content right now, Iographer can be your secret weapon. Check them out at iographer.com. In the background, music from Cannibal, Coconuts, and Steady State. It's a track called Palenque, out now on Audiophile Deep Records. Okay, we're excited to feature a new segment here on DFM. Actually, a whole new podcast from the brand studio at Microsoft Advertising. It's called Insights. Now, we launched this late last year as a voice skill for the Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant smart speaker platforms. It's a daily short-form marketing brief. Each one is no more than 3 minutes long, spotlighting a lot of very interesting consumer data and search trends discovered by our ACE research teams at Microsoft. And here's a sample.
Insights with Microsoft. Marketing briefs at the intersection of ad technology and consumer behavior. Here's today's insight.
According to the U.S. Department of Labor, there have been 22 million unemployment claims over the past month, pushing the actual jobless rate to a staggering 18%. With so many Americans out of work, And with stay-at-home mandates in place for most of the country, many of us have a new morning commute from the bedroom to the dining table or whatever space is now your designated home office. This means that millions of pre-COVID cars are now parked in the garage or driveway, but many of these dormant drivers are paying the same auto insurance rates, even though their cars are now being used significantly less. So what are the downstream effects of this? First, fewer cars on the road means fewer accidents, so insurance companies are saving a ton on claims right now, prompting some proactive and sympathetic insurers to offer their customers rate reductions. This is by no means the norm. It may actually be a good business strategy for those companies to foster trust and create more customer loyalty during a time when many customers are strapped for cash and comparison shopping for different providers. Zooming in on this a bit, we're seeing a trend emerge in this vertical with a 10 to 30% increase in keyword modifiers like best, cheap, or quote. While superlatives like best often indicate an individual is still in the early stages of searching, now may be a good time for auto insurers to gain some impressions and enter these shoppers' consideration sets. And expect to see a rise in retroactive low mileage discounts and pay per mile plans, since this offering is more aligned with the universal truth that people don't like to pay for things they don't use. In this case, that means a car that is sitting idle.
You've been listening to the Insights Daily Voice Skill, presented by Microsoft Advertising. Tune in every day for more insights on this smart assistant platform, or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.
And don't forget to subscribe to Insights with Microsoft for your daily briefing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or activate by saying, Alexa, enable Insights with Microsoft, and then every day just say, Alexa, read the news. For Google smart speakers, simply say, okay, Google, talk to Insights with Microsoft. All right, here are a few more stories that we are following that you might want to take a closer look at. It's another installment of On the Radar.
Here's what's on our radar. Number 1.
Auction houses such as Sotheby's and Christie's are under pressure to fast-track a full-time move from live theater sales to live streaming. But there are fears it will cost millions in lost revenue. While increased online auctions are yielding positive results, with many buyers using mobile phones to bid, online sales made up just 9% of the $64 billion art market sales in 2019.
Number 2.
For department stores currently closed to counter the coronavirus, the situation is dire. Many were already in deep trouble prior to the shutdown, straining to keep pace with the growth of online shopping. Stores already in desperate need for funds to remain solvent will need another cash injection once reopened. Lenders will make ruthless calls on a store's viability and whether reopenings are worth funding.
Number 3.
As the coronavirus shutdown grinds on, the world's biggest sporting bodies are desperately scrambling to discover a moonshot to get players back on the field. The biggest impediment so far? An inability to consistently source enough virus tests. And that's a wrap for another episode, number 66. Special thanks to Mathew Sweezey for joining us. Check out Mathew's book, The Context Marketing Revolution. Next week, we got a good one for you. Bloomberg's Sarah Fryer joins us to talk about her new book, No Filter, the inside story of Instagram. As always, thank you for your time and attention. We'd love for you to rate, review, and especially subscribe to the show. We're everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. Once again, our socials, Twitter and Instagram, @DisruptiveFM. And check out cool content from our sponsors at MicrosoftAdvertising.ai, BrandingStrategyInsider.com, and iographer.com. Until next time, from everyone here at DFM, I'm Jeffrey Colon, reminding you, stay off the steps of state capitals and stay home. From our home to yours, be safe, and we'll catch you next week.
You've been listening to Disruptive FM with Microsoft Communications designer Jeffrey Colon. All thoughts are his own. Disruptive FM is produced in Los Angeles by Feeler Media.